Niners fans, it's about that time. Thursday night, 7:15. Faithful Niner Empire. What's good? You know who it is. It's your boy, Jay in the Bay. Once again, pleasure and an honor to be on with the best fans in the NFL, the faithful, the Niner Empire. Man, how is everyone doing tonight on a Thursday night? Man, I was going to talk about number 21, Frank Gore, but Debo Samuel decided to shake up the entire 49er universe by well, if you don't know, obviously Debo Samuel, he's in the last year of his contract, and Debo Samuel wants to get paid. And I respect that. I would never tell someone to take less money, to stay with the Niners. I would never tell someone not to get what you feel you're worth. But Debo Samuel decided to change his IG profile pic, which used to be of him in a 49er uniform, and now I believe it's black now. I think the last time I saw it on IG, it was black. He also decided to scrub, I believe it was 80 images of him in 49er gear off his IG. It reminded me a lot of what Kyler Murray did not too long ago. Kyler Murray, he scrubbed his IG of anything Arizona Cardinals, and clearly Kyler Murray wants to get a contract extension. He wants to get paid. And like I said before, I respect Debo. I like Debo. He had a superb season last year, and a lot of times he was the best 49ers player, at least on the offensive side of the ball. So he deserves his money. Now, how much money he gets, that's to be determined, I guess. Everyone feels differently. But we'll see what happens. But that's the latest news with Debo Samuel, man. He scrubbed his IG, took off a bunch of 49er memorabilia, and people are wondering, well, what's next? Because we've had a similar situation with Deforest Buckner. Now, Deforest didn't scrub his IG, but he was in the last year of his contract in the 49ers, and Deforest could not agree to terms. So the 49ers, we ended up trading him away. And obviously, I would not want Debo Samuel to get traded. He is, one of the best offensive players in the NFL. Some would say the best offensive weapon. Clearly, last year he had a hell of a year, and he should have got some consideration for offensive player of the year, MVP, all that good stuff. But that didn't happen. But I love Debo. I love what he brings to the 49ers team on the field. The toughness he plays with, it's rarely matched. I mean, I think George Kittle, but not too many offensive players play with the tenacity that Debo Samuel plays with. And, you know, just like with every player, the 49ers brass, they have an idea of what salary Debo Samuel should get, just like they have an idea of what Mike McGlinchey should get. They have an idea of what Brandon Ayuk should get. They have an idea of what Nick Bosa should get. And if a player exceeds that amount, I don't see that much wiggle room. And I would love to hear the faithful, the Niner Empire. I would love to hear your thoughts on what you guys think, Debo Samuel is worth. Obviously, on the high end of the highest paid wide receivers, you have, Tyreek Hill. I believe he's at 28 mil per year. Devontae Adams is at 30 mil per year. I don't think Debo's at that level. Those guys that I just mentioned have put in multiple seasons of back-to-back stellar play. And I don't think Debo is at that level yet. Can he get to that level? Absolutely. But I don't think if he and the cold part about this is we don't know what type of money Debo wants. And let's be real, faithful. We can't sign Debo or any player to a max contract right now because of number 10 is still on the books. Y'all know who it is. So I mean, but of course they want to agree in principle. But for me, I think Debo's worth between 20 and 22 mil per year. And that's based off one superb season. His second year, he was injured. He was injured a majority of the season. The first year, I thought that was a good season for a rookie, but it sucks because we don't get to hear Debo's side. We don't know what him and his representation want. But it is kind of honestly, it is kind of childish for him to scrub his IG of 49er stuff. I mean, I know this is all about negotiations and things like that, but it is frustrating because I want to see Debo in a 49er uniform for a long time to come. But I just hope Debo and 49ers brass can agree on a contract extension. I hope they can do that, but we will see. But of course, this episode is going to be about Frank Gore. We're going to talk about Frank Gore, but I had to talk about Debo for a second because that was definitely on my mind. I did not envision Debo Samuel would scrub his IG this offseason. I did not anticipate that. But huge shout out to everyone watching intheBay Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Thanks for tuning in to the stream tonight. Feel free to hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So we have Stunner Fillmore in the building. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, Fillmore. How is your Thursday night going? And thanks for tuning in to the stream tonight. The Jonathan Lemon Brand. What's good? Appreciate you coming through, man. He says, oh, we're going to talk about this. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're definitely going to talk about this. And I will say this. I would love to, of course, have Debo back for multiple seasons with the 49ers, but I do believe that no player is untouchable as far as a trade, especially if you can't agree to terms money-wise on a contract and Debo could sit out this season. That's definitely a possibility. I don't blame him, though. If he can't come to an agreement on a contract, I wouldn't be surprised if he sits out of training camp. But, every player is tradable. Joe Montana, was traded. Deforest Buckner was traded. So if there's a team that's willing, I would love to hear the faithful. What do you guys think about that? If a team, and obviously they would have to overpay for Debo. We're not giving away Debo for a first round pick. It have to be 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and I think we would definitely at least think about it because Debo, absolutely, he is an asset. He is the best offensive player on the team, but if he's not going to be on the field because you can't agree to a contract, you have to explore other options. And John Lynch has done it before with DeForest Buckner. So, but of course, that's worst case scenario. Of course, I want Debo back, but we'll see how this plays out. We got Redder for the Steelers fan in the building. What's good? Appreciate you coming through, man. How was your night? We also have CarCast in the building, a fellow 49er content creator. Make sure you guys check him out when you get a chance. He talks about the faithful, the Niner Empire. Thanks for coming through to the stream tonight, CarCast. I am doing excellent, man, on a Thursday night. Had to come on and hop on tonight. We did have some 49ers news, obviously the Debo Samuel drama, but the 49ers, we did make a signing. So Debo Samuel said, hey, I'm not going to follow the Niners anymore on IG. I'm not going to support any of the 49er fan pages because that's what a few people on IG who have the 49er like latest news pages and things like that. They also said that Debo Samuel unsubscribed from them as well. So what the 49ers did, faithful? The 49ers in response to Debo Samuel, basically saying, hey, I don't want anything to do with the 49ers until we sign a new contract. The 49ers went out and signed wide receiver Marcus Johnson. John Lynch told Debo, okay, you don't want to be with the Niners no more? You don't want to represent the Niners? Well, we're going to go out and sign a no-name wide receiver. That's what we're going to do. And that's exactly what the Niners did. The Niners signed wide receiver Marcus Johnson. He has been on, I believe, 2 different teams so far in his career. Marcus Johnson has contributed on special teams last year. Let me just double check his stats real quick. So Marcus Johnson, he last played with the Tennessee Titans. He only played in 7 games. Now, the knock on Marcus Johnson is out of a possible 81 games, he's only played about 41 games. So that's definitely concerning. He hasn't been able to stay healthy, but he has contributed on the wide receiver end of things. He's got 51 total catches, 839 yards. He did that in 5 seasons as an NFL player. So Marcus Johnson, am I expecting him to compete for the number one spot, wide receiver spot? No, I'm not expecting him to compete for the number one wide receiver spot, but he could be a camp body, or he could be someone who is on the outside looking in once we get down to the active 53-man roster. So one thing, Marcus Johnson, though, in his 40 time that he ran in 2016, he did run a 4.38 40. So he can move. He is fast. I don't know if he can still run a 4.38. Maybe it's a 4.4, but that could be a under the radar deep threat signing because when you look at some of his highlights with the Colts, Jacoby Brissett was throwing deep to Marcus Johnson quite often. So, hey, if he can stretch the field, we'll see what he does in camp, because I do anticipate the 49ers bring on other wide receivers. So that's what John Lynch decided to do today in regards to the Debo Samuel drama. He decided to assign wide receiver Marcus Johnson. So we'll see what he does in camp. Redder 4 says NFL draft soon. Hopefully the Steelers take a quarterback. I would imagine they would, Redder. I don't think the future quarterback is currently on the roster. We got APW Sports in the building. Fellow content creator, also a Chicago Bears fan. What's good? APW says the Niners and Debo will work something out, so I wouldn't be too worried. I mean, that's what we hope. The Niners have been in this situation before with Deforest Buckner, defensive tackle, and eventually we traded Deforest Buckner to the Indianapolis Colts. So we have been in this situation before with a player who, hey, he was playing at the top of his game, but the 49ers and that said player could not agree to terms, so we ended up trading Deforest Buckner for a first-round pick. So I can only hope. I'm not worried because it's out of my control. You know, if the 49ers trade Debo to the highest bidder this offseason and we were able to get multiple picks because we couldn't come to an agreement, I mean, I would be disappointed at first because Debo won't be on the squad anymore, but I would understand. I mean, this is a business, and the 49ers just can't play. They can't pay every player exactly what they want. It's just, you know, the 49ers and other teams have a salary cap, and that's just not possible. You can't pay each player whatever they want. You know, you wouldn't be able to field a 53-man roster. So, you know, I hope it gets worked out. Hopefully, Debo will be on the field in training camp and preseason and in the regular season and in the, you know, the red and gold. But we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Redder 4 says Debo will get paid. Absolutely, no doubt he will get paid. We got hello ladies in the building. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream. Hopefully all is well for you on a Thursday night. Thanks for tuning in. Hello ladies. Redder says Debo is worth a lot. I don't know exactly how much though. I don't think Debo is at the level of wide receiver like a Tyreek Hill or a Devontae Adams. That's the top. I think Christian Kirk, he signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it was like a 4-year deal, $72 million. So I believe that's an average of about, $18 million per year if he stays the entire 4-year length of the contract. So I think Debo should get something a little bit more than that. Give him $20 million a year. And I think that's very reasonable. I think, you know, Debo had one superb season. And after that, or the 2 previous years, the second year he was injury plagued throughout that whole year. And then the first year, I think he had a pretty solid first year. But I just don't think you just pay Debo whatever he wants, you know. I just don't see that happen. We got David McNew in the building. What's good? David McNew gives his thoughts on the Debo Samuel topic. He says, what's good, Jay? Debo is worth $23 million a season with the work currently put in. Should put incentives for performance that will drive it up if he performs like a top flight wide receiver. I think that's reasonable. I think anywhere between 20 and 22, 23, I think that's reasonable. But like I said before in the beginning, the 49ers have every player slotted at a specific salary, and usually they don't budge too much from that. That's why DJ Jones walked. I'm gonna miss saying "Go DJ," that's my DJ. Go DJ, that's my DJ. I'm gonna miss saying that, but the 49ers, they didn't want to pay DJ Jones what he got. I think DJ, did he end up getting, what's it, 3-year, $30 million deal from the Broncos? I think it was up. It was somewhere there, 8 to 10 million per year. And DJ Jones, I mean, he earned every penny. Earned every penny. He was a 6th-round pick, I believe, in John Lynch's first NFL draft in the 2017, and he worked his tail off. He earned every cent that he's going to get, but the 49ers, didn't feel he was worth that amount of money, and that's their right to feel that way. But I'm glad DJ Jones got paid. And also with Lincoln Tomlinson, I thought Lincoln would get somewhere between 8 to 10. I think what the Jets ended up paying him 13, and that was more than what the 49ers were willing to pay. I guess the great thing is, even if you don't pay these players, the 49ers drafted their position. So we got Aaron Banks. Obviously, he didn't prove much last year. He wasn't really on the field that much, but there is a player or a few players that could take that left guard spot. Also with DJ Jones, obviously with Javon Kinlaw being out for the majority of last year, he's coming back from the knee surgery, and Javon Kinlaw is a 1st-round pick, and he's going to be given every opportunity to prove that he belongs in the NFL, and he's going to get every opportunity to prove that he can be one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, and the 49ers are going to give him that opportunity. And I think that's part of the reason why DJ Jones, the 49ers let DJ Jones walk. And I think Eric Armstead played really effective when he was inside instead of being outside. Eric Armstead, to me, is better as a defensive tackle compared to a defensive end. And also the 49ers have a lot of depth along the defensive line. Maurice Hurst, brought back Kevin Givens. I won't be surprised if the 49ers draft a defensive tackle, or even a UDFA, undrafted free agent. So 49ers do value the defensive line position, and basically they've drafted a defensive lineman in every draft except for the Trey Lance draft. And I think that's something they will continue to do, draft defensive linemen. Seahawks Eddie, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, Seahawks Eddie. Hopefully all is well for you, man. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We got David V in the building. What's good? I'm doing pretty good, man, on a Thursday night. I hope the Debo Samuel contract gets rectified, but I don't know. They can't even really agree to terms until Jimmy G is really off the books, because looking at the 49ers salary, let's see. So if you look at the 49ers current salary, it looks like we only have about 1.7 million in cap space. So we can't sign really anyone to significant money. And it's all because of, well, not all, but it's majority because of the Jimmy G contract. So hopefully we can take care of our players, though. Let's see. Redder, David says Redder, no faith in Mitch Trubisky. Oh, he said Mitch Trashbinsky. I don't think so, man. I don't think so. But appreciate everyone. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe. And we got to talk about, Frank Gore. Obviously, the news came out about Frank Gore. And Frank Gore, drafted in 2005, I believe a 3rd-round pick. He fell late into the draft because of the multiple knee injuries and knee surgeries he had at the University of Miami. And Frank Gore, he was the best player, I would say the best offensive player on a lot of 49er teams ever since he was drafted. He had to play with Alex Smith. And obviously we know Alex Smith was not very successful in a 49er uniform. He had one, maybe two pretty good years with Harbaugh, but Frank Gore, he just you talk about longevity. You talk about never missing a game. I think he only missed 15 games in 16 seasons. I mean, that's incredible. That's something that most running backs don't do nowadays. And Kyle Shanahan could definitely use a running back like Frank Gore in his offense today, especially when you talk about the durability factor. Every running back on this roster got injured last year, which is, of course, very unfortunate. But got to talk about Frank Gore. I'm wearing my Frank Gore Reebok jersey. This was probably one of the first jerseys I've ever gotten, I believe. I think the first one I got was a Terrell Owens jersey. And this might have been the second jersey I've ever gotten, the Frank Gore jersey. So I wear number 21 with pride, and just so many achievements that Frank Gore had in a 49er uniform. And he was the heart and soul of this offense. It didn't matter if Alex Smith was under center. It didn't matter if Cap was under center. Frank Gore, you always knew what Frank Gore would bring to the table. And he was just a hell of a running back. Obviously, he ended his career with 16,000 career rushing yards, which is incredible. And he ends up being third on the all-time rushing list, and that's an incredible achievement for a guy who was a third-round pick, right? Like, incredible achievement. He had 9 seasons of at least 1,000 yards rushing. He also scored a touchdown in 3 different decades. He was a 5-time Pro Bowl selection, and he was on the Hall of Fame All 2010s team. So Frank Gore, this is just my salute to Frank Gore and his amazing career. I wish he would have been able to finish his career with the 49ers and play every year with the 49ers, but sometimes that doesn't happen. But yeah, salute to Frank Gore in his retirement. And that leads me to my next question. And I would love to hear some feedback from the Niner Empire. Should this number 21 jersey be retired by the 49ers? And some people say no, some people say yes. I say yes because he had 16,000 career rushing yards. He was when I think of the 2000 49ers, the first person I think of is Frank Gore. There were a lot of years in the 2000s where, let's face it, the team wasn't very competitive. It really wasn't competitive until Harbaugh got here in the after 2000. I think it was 20. Let me double check. I don't want to get this wrong. Let me double check the year Harbaugh was the head coach of the 49ers. Let's see. Let me double check. Let's see. So Harbaugh became the head coach in 2011. The 49ers really didn't become competitive until basically when Harbaugh got there. And Harbaugh never had a losing season while he was coaching the 49ers. And when I think of the 2000 49ers, I think of Frank Gore. And of course, you think of Pat Willis, you think of Navarro Bowman, you think of Aldon Smith, you think of all the defensive players, Whitner. I think of Joe Staley. I think of Anquan Bolden. There's a lot of players. I think of Brandon Lloyd. Like, there's a lot of 49er players I think about. But for me, the player that stands out is Frank Gore. And I believe his jersey should be retired. And for all the achievements that he had that I previously named. And I just think he embodies what football is all about. It's just giving it your all. And the durability he had. It's just something that most players don't have. Basically, he missed 1 game a season. That's just incredible, especially at the running back position. He's getting hit on every play. So I would love to hear what the faithful think. Should the 49ers retire Frank Gore's number? David McNew says Frank the Tank Gore, great running back, and did it on some bad 49ers teams. Should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I completely agree with you. I know some people would say that he was never the best running back when he was, in his prime, because of course you had, you had Adrian Peterson, you had LaDainian Tomlinson, there's Priest Holmes, there was Arian Foster. Like, there's a ton of great running backs, but Frank Gore was unique, and I definitely think he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And we'll see if that happens. I think he has 5 years after he retires, and I think that's when he'll be first eligible, I believe. So we'll see if he gets in on his first try, but I think he's well deserving of. And I think the biggest reason, I think it's the 16,000 rushing yards. There's only two players who ever rushed for more rushing yards than Frank Gore. I mean, that's incredible. For me, that's like 3,000 hits in baseball. That's like 600 home runs or whatever. Like usually, if you have those type of numbers, usually you're a shoe in to get into the Hall of Fame. NYCE, what's good? He says, hope all is well, Jay. If I had to guess, I think Debo did that to spark the drama and get people off the whole Jimmy G stuff. Debo will sign. Hey, man, I hope you're right. But yeah, I think nothing really can be signed until Jimmy G is off the books. I just don't see how it can happen. Debo Samuel can sign if Jimmy is still on the roster, unless Jimmy takes a pay cut, which I don't understand why he would do that, or if Jimmy is released. But I see NYC. You're looking on the bright side, that's for sure. And I respect your opinion, and I hope a deal gets done. But we've seen this before with Defoe, and Defoe got traded, and we definitely were not expecting that. So I just hope they can come close and agree. It would be great to know what is Debo Samuel's number. It would be great to know what does he feel is sufficient, money for him. I would love to know that. And of course, he wants to get paid, his worth. Jag with that $5 super chat. Hot diggity dog. I appreciate that, Jag. Jag says at Jay in the Bay, the fact that we were lucky to have such a great player and that he lasted so long should be celebrated. Yes, all-time running back for the 49ers. Absolutely. And for me, when I first started watching the Niners, it was in 98. I believe it was the 98 season. And I remember, of course, I've heard of, I've heard of Roger Craig, heard of Ricky Watters. I remember Garrison Hurst right before, right before, I should say in the 97, 98 year. I think that's when Garrison Hurst kind of became the best running back on the 49ers. And that's what I remember. My first memories is Garrison Hurst running the ball. And of course we had like Kevin Barlow. And then of course we brought on Frank Gore, but yeah, there's no doubt, man. Frank Gore should be celebrated. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame, and hopefully, the 49ers retire his jersey. I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe any player has worn the number 21 since Frank Gore left the team. I don't think so. I can't recall any player that wore number 21. I don't remember. Maybe someone in the chat can refresh my memory, but yeah, I don't think any players have worn the number 21 since Frank Gore has left. I don't think so. We got the Cardinal Rule TCR in the building. What's good? Appreciate you coming through, TCR. And me and the Cardinal Rule will be having a collab, a live stream this Sunday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll talk about everything that's going on in the NFC West, and we'll also get a perspective from the Arizona Cardinals fan, the Cardinal Rule. So I'm definitely looking forward to that collab. It's good to know what your opponent is doing, and I plan on doing other collabs with other like Seahawks commentators and Rams commentator as well, right before the draft, because the draft is 3 weeks away. So looking forward to that, and also good to know, how the Cardinals feel their offseason is going and where they feel like they're going in the draft. So looking forward to that. The Cardinal Rule says, I think some people forget how good Frank Gore was earlier in his career because he's been more of a committee back in recent years. Dude was a beast. No, absolutely. Yeah. Frank Gore, I believe, if we look at his stats, and I will pull this up on the screen. But yeah, Frank Gore had some, incredible years. He had 9 1,000-yard seasons. And that's pretty good. That's really, really, really good. Um, and he was, the best player on this team when there there wasn't much to speak of. When we had Alex Smith and we were missing the playoffs every year, we could still count on Frank Gore, man. And there's no doubt, you look at the 16,000 yards, you look at the 81 touchdowns. You look at his best year, arguably, was probably 2006, or that's at least where he had the most rushing yards. That was 1,695 yards in 2006. Those years with Harbaugh between 2011 and 2014, he ran for over 1,000 yards each season. And Harbaugh, what was Harbaugh about? Harbaugh was about, defense, fierce defense, getting after the quarterback and running the ball down your throat. And Frank Gore embodies that. There's no doubt. Frank Gore embodies that. And, I just wish he could have played his entire career with the 49ers, but unfortunately that didn't come to fruition. But man, I wish we could have they don't make running backs like Frank Gore no more. That's for sure, man. Especially with the durability factor, they just don't make running backs like Frank Gore anymore, man. One of a kind, that's for sure. One of a kind. 49ers first takes, hot diggity dog. What's good? Appreciate that $5 super chat, man. Thanks for tuning in to the stream tonight. He says, "What's up, Jay? Thanks for supporting my stream earlier, man. No problem, man. I enjoyed you and your guests tonight that you had to stream on earlier. So, man, keep doing big things. 49ers first takes, and appreciate the gift, man. I appreciate you." Let's see. Jag says the biggest reason for Frank Gore going into the Hall of Fame is what a great young man and teammate he was. Now, that's very true. His teammates do speak very highly of him, and that's not to be, that can't be disputed. So that is one amazing quality, that he is beloved by his teammates, and that's something that, hey, not every player can say that. Carcast says Fred Ward is my favorite 49er player. Also, we need to figure out a good time for Show J. I'm free on my spring break. Can do too late because it's cool. We will definitely link up, man, and we will definitely find a time to link up. Make sure you guys check out Carcast on YouTube. He talks about the Niner Empire. We got Livy's World in the building. What's good? Appreciate you tuning in to the stream, Livy's World. Hopefully all is well for you on a Thursday night. I would love to know if the faithful think Frank Gore's jersey number should be retired. And I don't know how many people have seen, this 49ers team when it was Roger Craig. Obviously, probably most of you haven't seen Joe Perry, but he was one of the best running backs when he played, and he played with the Niners. But this goes into my other question, is Frank Gore the best 49ers running back of all time? And like I said before, my earliest memory, I saw Garrison Hurst. I saw, Kevin Barlow. And of course there was Frank Gore. And of course there was Carlos Hyde. And, but is Frank Gore, in you guys' opinion, do you think Frank Gore is the best 49ers running back of all time? And if we're talking about great 49er running backs, obviously you got to mention, Roger Craig. You got to mention, Ricky Waters. But let's look up Roger Craig real quick. Unfortunately, I was not able to see Roger Craig play. But I know a lot of people say, hey, he's a 4-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, 3-time Super Bowl champion. I know a lot of 49er fans say he should be in the Hall of Fame, and there's, for some reason, he's not. But, and obviously the game was much different back then. But you look at Roger Craig. I mean, he was a dual threat out of the backfield. He ran the ball. He caught the ball well. Like if you look at in the 1985 season, he had 92 catches as a running back. That's incredible. 92 catches. He had 1,000 yards receiving, and he also had 214 carries and 1,000 yards rushing. So Frank Gore never did that. Roger Craig did do that in one season where he had the 1,000, but you usually Most running backs don't do that nowadays. They don't do run and receiving at least at 1,000-yard pace. Like that's an incredible year. But yeah, I mean Roger Craig, he definitely seems deserving of a Hall of Fame nod. I'm not sure why he didn't get it, but he had 3 seasons of 1,000 yards rushing. Also had 2 seasons where he had nine rushing touchdowns. So he had an impeccable career. Um, but yeah, I would love to hear you guys' thoughts. Is Frank Gore the best 49ers running back of all time? Let me know in them comments. Let's see. We have blown coverage fantasy football. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, man. Blown coverage says, I can't wait to see what Trey does this season. Man, you and me both. It's crazy. Obviously, I want Trey Lance to start. And hopefully we get off of Jimmy G's contract sooner than later. But I think John Lynch is he's gonna hold on to Jimmy G until he thinks he can actually trade him. But hey, injuries happen all the time, especially at every position. At quarterback position, it happens. So I remember a few years ago, Sam Bradford got traded to Philly for a first-round pick because of an injury. And it sucks that the 49ers are basically waiting for a player to possibly get hurt in order for Jimmy G to have value, because right now he doesn't have much value. He can't pass a physical. He had the shoulder surgery. Also, he makes $27 million. So teams may not be interested. Carolina could be interested, but they're probably going to draft a quarterback in the draft. So, if a player doesn't get hurt, a quarterback doesn't get hurt, then hopefully we cut Jimmy. And I think this offseason should be based around helping Trey Lance. We need to be adding receivers, offensive line help. Running, I think we need another running back. But this offseason is all about Trey Lance and his development. And we got a new quarterback coach in Brian Griese. He knows the Shanahan system. He played under Mike Shanahan with the Denver Broncos. So it'll be interesting to see how Trey Lance does this year. I think he'll have all the talent around him, especially if Debo re-signs with us, which that's what we're hoping for. But who knows what really is going to happen. But hey, that's what this offseason is all about, is getting weapons for Trey Lance. The Cardinal Rule weighs in on who is the best 49ers running back of all time. He says it's between Frank Gore and Roger Craig. I would agree with that, absolutely. And I think Frank Gore probably gets the nod. I think he did play more seasons with the 49ers. He didn't have that 1,000-yard rushing and receiving season. He did not have that. But Frank Gore wasn't really utilized in that manner. He was more just ground and pound, run the ball. But yeah, there's definitely a debate there. The Cardinal Rule says I'm old, so I watched Craig play some. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, most running backs, they don't do that now. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, he's a great example of a player who can run the ball and he can catch the ball out the backfield. I think of Alvin Kamara. I think of old school, Thurman Thomas. When he played with the Buffalo Bills, he was a great example of a player who ran the ball in between the tackles, and he also caught the ball out of the backfield as well. So not a ton of running backs do that nowadays, and I don't remember if anyone else has gotten 1,000-yard receiving, 1,000-yard rushing season after Roger Craig. That's a trivia question. I'd have to look that up. The Cardinal Rule also says 1,000 yards rushing and receiving in the same season. Exactly. Yeah, that's what Roger Craig did, and I don't know if that's been duplicated since then. Absolutely, NYCE. Yeah, first running back to do that, and I don't know if that's happened since. So I would have to, maybe someone can look that up. Let me know if there's another running back that has done that. I would think also Marshall Falk was in that same mode. Great receiving back, great rushing back. But I don't know if, let's see. Oh, so it looks like Marshall Falk had 1,000 rushing and 1,000-yard receiving season. So we look up Marshall Falk, and so looks like in the 1999 season with the St. Louis Rams. This season right here, he had 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving. If I had to guess any running back, I would think it would be him, and it turned out to be right. Yeah, he was a dual threat as well, and obviously he's a Hall of Fame running back as well. 7-time Pro Bowler. His jersey number looks like retired by the Rams. So, yeah, Marshall Falk had a excellent career, no doubt about that. Yeah, I wonder if there was. Well, that answers my question. I wonder if there were any other players past Marshall Falk who had that 1,000 season. I just looked up Thurman Thomas numbers. He didn't have that, but he had hell of a career, Hall of Fame career. 49er King 510. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, man. You guys check out 49er King 510. He also is a content creator. Of course, he talks about the Niner Empire. Niner King 510 says easily a top 5 running back. I'm trying now. So I think we could kind of agree. Let's see. We got Blue True in the building. Hot diggity dog. Appreciate that gift, Blue True. Blue True says, I say yes to Frank Gore's 49er jersey should be retired. He has earned it. Yeah, I would agree as well. Definitely agree. His number should be retired by Jed York and the 49ers. I would love to know, is Frank Gore a top 5 running back of all time? I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. And one reason is because he's got the 16,000 yard mark, right? I think that's one reason you could put Frank Gore, as a top 5 running back of all time. Now, there's no doubt Frank Gore is not the flashiest running back. He's not Barry Sanders. He's not Walter Payton. He's not Jim Brown. He's not LaDainian Tomlinson. But I think you might be able. He's not Marcus Allen. He's not Marcus Allen. Obviously, there's levels to this, faithful. But what do you guys think? Do you think Frank Gore is a top 5 running back of all time? I think based on his 16,000 yards career rushing, I think he could possibly be a top 10 running back of all time. But I think top 5, I think those guys I mentioned will probably go ahead of him. Just being completely honest, showing no bias. I think those guys will probably go ahead of Frank Gore, but he might have a chance to be in the top 10. Maybe he might be able to be in the top 10 of all-time rushers. But let's look at the list. I want to pull this. So let's look at the list of the all-time rushers in the NFL. And, of course, at the top, you got Emmitt Smith with 18,000. You got Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Adrian Peterson, Curtis Martin, LT, Bettis, Eric Dickerson, Tony Dorsett, Jim Brown, Marshall Falk, Adrian James. Yeah. As I look at these players, I don't know if he would crack the top 10, honestly, Frank Gore. I know he had the 16K, but an argument could be made because Frank Gore is not the most flashiest player. He doesn't have the highlight tape of a Eric Dickerson, of a Marshall Falk, of a Barry Sanders, But I think, as far as obviously his yardage gets him there, but maybe he could be a top 10, maybe not the top 10 flashiest or the best highlight reel or whatever, but I think there's an argument could be made about Frank Gore. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts in them comments. Let's see. NYCE says, as far as the top 49er running backs of all time, he's got Roger Craig number 1, Frank Gore 2nd, and Ricky Watters 3rd. Okay, I respect that. We got J.R. Meadows in the building. What's good? I wish I would have saw Roger Craig play, but that was before my time. But I got to look up some of his highlights because I know Roger Craig is, respected player, in the 80s dynasty with the 49ers, got a few Super Bowl rings. Sucks that he didn't get into the Hall of Fame, but there's no doubt he was, definitely, I would say top 2, top 3. Some people would say Joe Perry, but that's before all of our time. I never saw Joe Perry, but he was one of the, one of the first elite 49er running backs, I would say. 49er King 5-0. He says, I got Frank top 3. Okay. Hey, I respect that. Let's see. David McNew says, since Frank the Tank played on teams with bad offensive linemen, I rank him first in 49er history. Roger Craig was great, but also played on mostly good teams with good offensive line. All right. Yeah, that's because that's before my time. So I don't know who Roger Craig played behind as far as the offensive line. I think when I think of Frank Gore and the offensive line he played behind, I think of Jeremy Newberry. I think of Mike Ayupati. I think of we had Trent Brown for a minute. Let's see. We had Aaron Boone. So I think with Harbaugh, he had probably the best offensive line. Frank Gore did, but before that, yeah, it was suspect. Definitely suspect. But I appreciate your insight, David. Blown Coverage says, I got Gore. All right. Gore as the best 49er running back of all time. That's what I would say. And that's basically because that's who I saw, for 10 plus years, starting in 05. The Cardinal Rule. Now, the Cardinal Rule has seen Roger Craig. He's also seen Frank Gore, of course. And he says, I think I would lean towards Frank Gore too. All right. Hey, I respect that, man. We got the Niner Sickness podcast in the building. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, Beto. How is your night going, man? Hopefully your night is going well, Niner Sickness. The Cardinal Rule says, I think Gore is top 10, but not top 5. Yeah, and for those that are just tuning in, let me know. Do you think Frank Gore is a top 5 running back of all time? And we're including all the running backs who ever played in the NFL. Once I started naming the other running backs, I was like, I don't think he's top 5, but he might be able to get into the top 10, top 12. And look at his longevity, playing 16 seasons, only missing 15 games in those seasons, having 9 1,000-yard seasons. I think, other players, like you look at LaDainian Tomlinson, you look at Adrian Peterson, they were the best running backs of their era, no doubt. But I think Frank Gore was like right behind that. And Frank Gore put up a Hall of Fame worthy career, that's for sure. Blown Coverage says, no, not top 5 all time in the NFL. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, he's not top 5. And feel free to put in your top 5 of all-time running backs as well. If you don't think Frank Gore is top 5 all time, feel free to put in your top 5 running backs of all time. At the top of my head, without looking at any stats, Barry Sanders is probably the first running back who comes to mind. I would say, and not necessarily in this order, but you look at Barry Sanders, you look at Jim Brown, you look at Walter Payton, you look at, I don't know if I would put Emmitt Smith in my top 5. I don't know. I would maybe put Adrian Peterson. Easier list for me. The top 5 running backs that I have personally seen basically since the 2000s. I mean, it would be Adrian Peterson. It would be LT. Those would be the top 2 that come to mind. Man, I mean, you look at, Jerome Bettis is in the top 10 of all time rushers. You look at him. I don't know if he's in the top 10 of all time rushers. Statistically, he is, but you got guys like Eric Dickerson. Adrian James had 12,000 career rushing yards. Fred Taylor, like there was a lot of good running backs. A running back who doesn't get talked about a lot is Steven Jackson, and I know he played on some horrible Rams teams that they were terrible. They were terrible. That was right after the greatest show on turf, but he always put up pretty good season, Steven Jackson. But no one really talks about him. He ended up his career with 11,438 rushing yards. So, man, it's very hard to compile a list. But the top 5 that I have seen, I mean, you look at Ward Dunn. He did it all with Tampa Bay, and I think he played for, who else was it? In Atlanta. Like, he did it all. He could run the ball, he could catch the ball at the backfield. Adrian James was just a bruiser at Indianapolis. Marshall Falk, LT. Like, it's very it's very hard to honestly. It's hard to put Frank Gore in the top 5 of the 2000s. Honestly, if I'm being totally honest, if you look at AP, LT, Marshall Falk, is Adrian James better than Frank Gore? It's debatable. Obviously Frank Gore ended up with a ton of more yards. Um, but yeah, it would be very hard to put him in the top 5 of the 2000s, if I'm being completely honest. Niner Sickness says, who was better, Frank Gore or Roger Craig? I would say personally Frank Gore. He was more productive, but I know Roger Craig was the dual threat out of the backfield. He could do it all, run and catch. Thank you, David. Yeah, I was wondering about that because I haven't seen any other Niner, wear the number 21 since Frank left the team, and I think that's by design. No other player, just like no other player will wear 80, and no other player will wear 16, no other player will wear 8, 42. So, and I think he will get his jersey retired. I'd love to attend that game at Levi Stadium. That's for sure. Niner Sickness, and I hear this all the time. Emmitt Smith had the best offensive line of football. He wasn't that great. I hear that all the time, but he's got the he's rushed for the most rushing yards, in the NFL. And I was listening to a radio show. They were saying that if Barry Sanders was on the Cowboys, he would have ran for 25,000, rushing yards. But because Barry Sanders didn't have a great O-line, but we'll never know. But looks like Jesus. Thanks for tuning in to the stream. What's good? Let's see. Jesus says Frank Gore is a top 15 running back of all time. Okay, and I think I could put him in there as a top 15 of all time. I think that's somewhere between 10 and 15 is, me being unbiased. But with him finishing third all time in rushing yards, I think that should definitely put him over the top into the Hall of Fame. I think so. Because if you look at the top rushers, Emmitt Smith's in the Hall of Fame, Walter Payton is, Barry Sanders is, Adrian Peterson will be in the Hall of Fame. I think Curtis Martin is, LaDainian Tomlinson is, Jerome Bettis is. I think Eric Dickerson is in the Hall of Fame, Tony Dorsett. So the top 10 career rushers in the NFL in history, they're all in the Hall of Fame. So I think, let me double check. Tony Dorsett was before my time. I know he played for the Cowboys, but I think Tony Dorsett is in the Hall of Fame. Let me double check, but I think so. Yeah, Tony Dorsett is in the Hall of Fame. So yeah, and Tony Dorsett only had 4 Pro Bowls, but he had 12,000 rushing yards. So yeah, I mean the top 10 career rushers are in the Hall of Fame. So I think it's a no-brainer for Frank. The Cardinal Rule says Roger Craig was a big-time, high-stepping running back. Okay, yeah, I got to watch some highlights of Roger Craig. I think they said the same thing about. I'm not even gonna say the name because I'm not even sure, but I'm gonna have to watch some highlights on Roger Craig TCR. And it looks like Niner Sickness, the 49er historian, he says he can vouch for that about what Joseph said, aka the Cardinal Rule. He says Joseph, he was definitely a high stepper. Okay. Let's see. NYCE says, I would say he's in between 10 and 15. And we're talking about Frank Gore. Those that just tune in, feel free to hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't, make sure you subscribe. And we're talking about Frank Gore and where does he rank top running backs of all time. Obviously, Frank Gore finished third with 16,000 rushing yards. And, we're having a nice, fun debate about where Frank Gore will end up. That hopefully he will end up in the Hall of Fame. I don't see why he wouldn't. NYC says, I would say Frank Gore is in between 10 and 15 of the top running backs of all time. I would agree with that. We got E-Man in the building. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, E-Man. He says Emmitt. Okay, probably talking about Emmitt Smith. What about Emmitt? Niner Sickness says Harris Barton, Bubba Paris. That name rings bells. Fred Q, Randy Cross, the name rings bell, and Keith Van Horst, offensive line for Roger Craig. Okay. Yeah, and I believe that was a pretty stout offensive line. So E-Man says Tomlinson. So he's got Emmett, Tomlinson. Okay. Damian Lee, what's good? And feel free, if you guys just tuning into the stream, feel free to leave your top 5 running backs of all time. And it looks like Damian Lee's got Barry Sanders, Jim Brown, Marshall Falk, Marcus Allen, and OJ. Can't forget about Orenthal. Can't forget about him, man. Yeah, OJ was a beast when he was with Buffalo. And he played with the Niners, I think, 1 season. So Jag is giving us his top 5 49ers of all, or no, top 5 NFL running backs of all time. He's got Barry Sanders, Jim Brown, LT, Emmitt Smith, and Frank Gore. Hey, I respect that list, man. We got Pale Time in the building. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, Pale Time. Hopefully all is well, man. Thanks for tuning in. Blue True, Thurman Thomas is in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely. You know it. Pale Time says, a girl asks you to her cousin's wedding that's the same day as day 3 of the draft. I already know where this is going to go. Is it bad form to bail on the wedding to watch the draft if your team mainly picks on day 3? This is a great question, Pale Time. I think it all depends on how you feel about the girl. If you're head over heels for this girl, you might have to watch day 3 of the draft on your cell phone. But hey, if you value the draft over spending time with a young lady, then I guess there really is no hard decision here. But but good luck with that, Pale Time. Good luck with that, man. Hopefully I helped you out there. But you could always watch it on your phone. But I know, hey, we love the draft. We love to see which talent we're going to add to our team. And sometimes, we can't pass up on that opportunity. Appreciate the question, though, Pale. NYCU says, my top 5, Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, Eric Dickerson, Bo Jackson, and OJ the Juice, man. Hey, I respect that list, man. I think the consensus number 1 running back of all time, I think, is pretty much going to be Barry Sanders. Yeah, I think everyone pretty much said, Barry was just different. He was magnificent, man. His highlight film is incredible. And it's crazy that Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders played in the same backfield, I think, with Oklahoma State. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, man, I would agree with that. That's a good list. Let's see. Pale Time says, I remember Frank Gore and Steven Jackson having some great running back battles. Gore clearly had the better career. And it's no knock on Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson was a really good running back. It just sucks that he was on some bad Rams teams. But trust me, I remember Steven Jackson because he would always run up and down the field on us, man. There's make no mistake about it, man. Steven Jackson, he was really good. But for whatever reason, he doesn't get talked about a lot. I guess because he was on bad teams. I mean, he was 6'2", 240. If you look at Steven Jackson, drafted in 2004, he had 8 1,000-yard rushing seasons. That's Steven Jackson. So man, he had a stellar career. Let's see. This like Pale Time says he's been dating a month with the girl. Okay. No Border Sports. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, MBS. Hopefully all is well for you, man. Let's see. Jag says 16,000 yards or 16,000. No matter. He earned every yard because he was just a tough runner. Just the way he played against the Legion of Doom and the respect they had for him. All you got to know. Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Jack. David says, Pale Time. It's one of those ask for forgiveness situations. If she loves you, then it's all good. Let's see. Pale Time offers his top 5 running backs of all time. He's got Falk, of course. Dickerson, Steven Jackson, Jerome Bettis, Todd Gurley. Yeah, these are all LA Rams running backs. That's funny. I wonder, so who would be Who would be your top Rams running back of all time, Pale? Feel free to put that in the chat, man. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Falk and Dickerson, I would assume, would be 1 and 2, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Niner Sickness says, what NFC team lost to the 49ers 17 times in a row within the division? Oh, you know it was the LA Rams, man. You know it. Blue Juice says, at Pale Time, Jana Bay gave you good advice. I concur. If you really like her, go to the wedding. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. No Border Sports says Barry was the most fun to watch. Yeah, I would agree, man. I would agree. He was definitely just a magician out there on the football field. Barry Sanders made a lot of defenders look silly. David says, Pale Time, I think there may be some bias involved in your top 5 picks. I think so, man. I think so. Pale Time says Jackson is the Rams' all-time leading rusher. Wow. Yeah, I mean, Steven Jackson was a beast. He just wasn't on any good teams. Like if you had Steven Jackson in his prime after Ty Gurley had left, man, 6'2", 240 speed. Like, yeah, Steven Jackson was a beast. But he just doesn't get talked about that much. But hey, I didn't know that he was the Rams' all-time leading rusher. Look who blessed us with his presence today. We got Celts Chronicles in the building. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, Celts. He says, yay. Pale Time says, to Rams running back, I think I got to say Falk. Yeah, no surprise there. Celts Chronicles says, Bettis and Allstott were fun to watch. Yeah, Mike Allstott, yeah, he was a beast, man. He was like, he had the fullback body, but he had the power, he had the speed like a running back. Yeah, Mike Allstott was a beast, that's for sure. You got Debbie Castillo in the building. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, Debbie. Debbie says, what's up, Jay? Finally made your live. Been busy with work. Hope all is well, bro. Same to you. And yeah, come through anytime. I appreciate it. I know we all have lives. I don't expect everyone to make every stream, but I appreciate you just coming in and saying what's good. I appreciate that. Let's see. Celts Chronicle says with the DeAndre. Now this is the Frank Gore Reebok jersey. So this is I was saying this earlier, Kels, like this was one of the first jerseys I had ever gotten. And this is the old school. Like this isn't even like a red. It's like a maroon type color. But yeah, this is Frank Gore. So, but appreciate that, Celts. NYCE says, I struggle with Peyton or Barry at number 1. Sweetness was something special too. And unlike Barry, Peyton got a ring. True. Yeah. But I mean, Barry played on the Detroit Lions. So, it's not going to be a lot of success over there with the Detroit Lions, man. But I appreciate everyone for tuning in to the stream tonight on a Thursday night. Had an excellent turnout. Great conversation in the chat. Huge shout out to everyone watching intheBay Facebook, intheBay YouTube, intheBay Twitter. And hopefully we resolve the issue with Debo. Hopefully we can get that at least an agreement in place. But hey, we'll see what happens. He can't sign a new contract until Jimmy G is off this roster, and Jimmy G is not going to be off this roster anytime soon unless we cut him, because I don't know if a team is going to trade for Jimmy. So. But yeah, that was crazy that Debo Samuel, man, that was crazy that he he scrubbed his IG. But I guess that's what the new kids do today, man. No Border Sports says Allstott and Dunn were crazy to watch. Yeah, they had a great 1-2 tandem, man. Great 1-2 tandem. Crazy. Celts Chronicle says Sweetness had the biggest heart. Absolutely. We got Shifty's Niners talk in the building. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, man. Yeah, it's all good, man. We definitely got to link up Shifty in the near future for sure. Maybe sometime after the draft, we could talk about something. But thanks for coming through, Shifty, man. And for those that don't know, Shifty, of course, talks about the faithful, the Niner Empire. He's a fellow content creator, man. Appreciate you for tuning in. But we definitely got to link up, that's for sure. And man, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Man, I appreciate it. Oh, we got DDC in the building. What's good? It's all good, DDC. Thanks for coming in, man. Thanks for coming in. Hey, the feelings are mutual, Shifty. Feelings are mutual, man. And I can't wait to collab and pick your brain about the Niners, man. I'm looking forward to it. David says cutting Jimmy G would be the best thing for both sides. The media will stop their speculation, and Jimmy G can go where he wants to. Yeah, I mean it's just it's tiring. It's old. Still talking about number 10. Of course, I appreciate what he's done for the squad, but it's Trey Lance time. But we can't cut Jimmy G now. He not until he at least can pass a physical. The 49ers don't want to pay him $7.5 million to walk out the door. So when Jimmy can pass a physical, I think the likelihood of maybe cutting him rises a little bit. But I think Lynch is very stubborn, and he's going to wait, 24 hours until week 1 Sunday. I think he's going to wait it out as long as he can because, hey, injuries do happen. But John Lynch feels that, hey, Jimmy's got value, which he does have value, but not when he's hurt and he can't pass a physical. And every team that needed a quarterback, they got their guy. I guess you could say what Carolina doesn't and the Giants don't, but they seem like they're going to ride with their young guys or draft a quarterback. So we'll see. First it was Jimmy, now it's Debo, man. It's always an interesting 49ers all season, man. That's for sure. Niners Signet says, grab me one of those helmets behind you. Absolutely, man. Let me just grab one behind me. Appreciate everyone coming through on a Thursday night to talk about the Niner Empire. Of course, on Jay and the Bay YouTube channel, I talk about the latest 49ers news, and I will have a live stream this Sunday night with the Arizona Cardinals fan content creator, The Cardinal Rule. We'll talk about the 49ers off season, Cardinals off season. So, hey, if that interests you, feel free to tune into that this Sunday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Shifty says true, especially about him still being injured. Emmanuel Sanders spoke highly of Jimmy G recently. And that's the crazy thing. All the players speak highly of Jimmy G. I think they respect him as a player. They respect him as a competitor. And they say that he leaves it all on the field. And when players talk about Jimmy G, they always talk about his leadership, and that's great. But I think he's done all he can do with the 49ers, and it's time to move on to trade area. Pale time. I think the Niners should get some of the Niners faithful on YouTube to be in their draft room. That'd be dope. And I would definitely sign up for that to get like an insider's access to how the 49ers go about their draft process, man. That would be great. That'd be great. Appreciate the kind words. Pay your time. And I'll end the show by saying Frank Gore deserves to be in the Hall of Fame based on obviously his career achievements, and I think his jersey number should be retired. This number 21 should be retired by the Niner Empire. But everyone have a great rest of your night, one day before the weekend. And thanks for watching your boy, Jay in the Bay. And tomorrow, Friday, is a payday Friday. Y'all know ain't nothing better than a payday Friday. I'll see you guys in the next one. Go Niners.